Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
According to my next guest, we're living in a sex-saturated society, and that's basically, it means everything is about sex. You see it on TV, you see it in the newspapers, magazines. I'm proud to welcome my guest, Jeromy Darling, on. He is the author of Love, Sex, and Porn.
Yeah.
Welcome to Motivation, Jeromy.
Thank
How
you
are
very
you?
much, Ron. I'm good. I'm good. Busy, but good.
Yeah, this is an exciting time.
Yeah.
I saw a video of you, I'm always researching the internet, and I saw a video of you talking about love, sex, and porn, and I found it to be very compelling, and it kind of drew me. You have almost a charisma, actually, too, about yourself when you're speaking about it, but it kind of drew me. What first got you involved into that part of it,
Sure.
And then with that, give me a little bit of your background. Let's start there first. What's your background leading up to that?
Sure. So I'm an actor and a songwriter. That's what I do for a living. Mm-hmm. I also run a charity called the Salvage Project, and I do concerts in prison shelters, halfway houses all over the country.
And how did you get into that?
I started that in 2014. I'd been volunteering doing concerts in prisons locally for a couple of years, and they always went so well. Often the groups would just be sobbing, and I'm just me playing, my songs.
And what kind of concerts?
It depends. If I'm at like a men's prison, I'll bring a full band. It's my music, and it's big, loud rock and roll.
Okay, men's prison. Why men's prison?
Well, I do men and women's prisons. It's just sort of a matter of who will let me in.
Okay. And why prisons? And I'm asking you that because I have a gut feeling why, but I want the audience to kind of know what it is that you're actually doing here.
So I don't think the world needs more celebrities or rock stars. I think it needs fathers. So when I started doing music, I really felt like, look, we're in a world where no one's paying for music anymore. Rock and roll is on a decline if it's not already dead. Yeah. So no one's going to pay for music. I would like to take mine to people that need it the most, the people at the bottom of society. And when you're at the bottom, you have only one direction to reach, which is up, or you die. And it is amazing. Music is the universal language. Unlike any other thing in all the world, music can connect with somebody at a very visceral, spiritual level. And so to be able to take that into people in prisons who have nowhere else to go, they have no entertainment, frankly, they've been forgotten by society. Most people think they deserve to rot there till they're dead. And some do. I don't make the rules. I just know if they've got a pulse, I believe they can be redeemed. And prisons are not spitting out better men or women. They just lock people away with the worst of the worst. Right. And then in 10 years, when they get out, as 98% of people in prison do, they're not any better off. And they're broke. They can't get a job. They can't get a car. They can't get a bank account. If they haven't burned every bridge, they're going to go back to crime. I think music has a way of very quickly redeeming somebody and giving them insight into the heart of God.
How does it redeem people?
So I go in, when I play, I do music and stories. And so I write a lot about addiction, hopelessness, depression, abuse, pain. And pain is the great barrier to God. If God loves me so much, why did I get abused growing up? I prayed for it to stop, and it never did. Right. And it's a valid question. We look at God as this person who's supposed to stop all evil. But that's not actually the case. In my opinion, I believe God is up there weeping, because he put a barrier. That barrier is called choice, right? You cannot have real love without choice. Right. You have to be able to refuse that love if you so choose to. Right. And we've seen now the devastation over the centuries of humanity rejecting God. And God's not there sort of stroking his beard, laughing at us. He's weeping at what we've done. And I want to communicate that to these folks in prison, and through music and through stories, help them understand that religion, throughout all the centuries, has lied to them. It said you need to be good, or God won't love you. Right. Or you need to undo all of the bad things, or do more good things than bad things. But no one actually ever gives them that process. Right. And they just feel hopeless, like there's no way. I mean, I killed somebody, I robbed somebody, I raped somebody, I'm in prison, I'm done. And that's not actually the case when it comes to God and redemption, whether they get out of prison or not. Right. And for me, the best way to communicate that is through music, and to come in and give them a big rock and roll show, which I do at the men's prisons. At the women's prisons, I usually bring a woman with me that will sing, and I just bring an acoustic guitar, and I make more sort of light folk music and stories, because the last thing women need in a women's prison is another guy screaming at them.
Right. Now, were you ever in prison yourself?
I wasn't. No. I mean, I've been in.
So what? I mean, you're, like I said again, you're very charismatic yourself. You have the charisma about you. What, you never been to prison? Were you addicted to drugs or anything?
No.
So this is, I mean, it's interesting that you'd be pulled into this to help.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. Jesus spent all his time with the losers, rejects, and outcasts of the world exclusively, rejecting the religious bigots and even the wealthy.
Right.
Nothing wrong with being rich.
Right.
Nothing wrong with being religious. But Jesus spent all of his time with the outcasts of society. In fact, all through the Bible, you see God picking losers and nobodies, people society had deemed not worth anything.
Right.
And then God using those people to do great things. So I actually believe prison is stealing talent. It's stealing vibrant people from contributing to society because of what they've done, and they deserve to be there. But Jesus spent all his time with the nobodies, and that's where I believe as a Christian, that's where we should be. We can keep sending our money to Africa and to starving kids all day, and we should be doing that. We should be putting our money where our mouth is. But it's very easy for us to go, well, I go to church on Sunday, and I adopted a little orphan in Africa, so I'm a good Christian. But we're not willing to get our hands dirty and go where Jesus did. And Jesus laid out the life of what a Christian is supposed to do.
Sure, and Jeromy, why do you think that is, that people aren't willing to actually do that? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I've talked with many pastors. One of the easiest things for me to do as an individual is to go to the prison. It's easy for me. But most pastors say they would never go.
Yeah,
They're
you know
like scared
why?
of it.
Because they can't contribute to the bottom dollar of the church. These guys can't come into prison. They can't offer any tithe. It's not a part of our global mission. It's not a part of our community mission. Now, there are some great churches doing great things that don't have a prison ministry. Here's what I know. If you just look at the foster care program, most kids in foster care will end up in prison. There are 500,000 kids, 500,000 in the country in a foster system. There are 1.5 million churches in America. So if you asked one family from a third of the churches in America to foster or adopt one child, there would be no foster system. And the devil's known this through all the centuries. If you lull people to sleep, make them bored, and spoil them with wealth, they're not going to want to get off their couch and do anything to upset the status quo. This is my bubble. I'm safe. I get to my yoga class. I get my smoothies, my coffee. My kids are gone all day, so I can do what's comfortable for me. I take them to church and hope that the youth leader can correct any issues in their life. But I don't have to do any of that stuff. But the reality is, Ron, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, in fact, all of time, what were we doing? We worked all day with our families trying not to die. Right?
Oh yeah.
And then you go home, you have a big meal, sleep at night, wake up and do it all again in the morning. With a nucleus family, we were better off than, I'm not saying we need to go back to no electricity, but I am saying we are the most wealthy human beings that have ever walked the face of the earth, and we're not doing anything with it.
Yes, if you just tuned in Motivation, I'm Ron Henderson, aka The Fitness King, with my guest, Jeromy Darling. He's the author of Love, Sex, and Porn. So, you're going to the prisons, you're playing, you're singing, you're doing this, but you got this video up that I was watching. Let's get into that, because I know that's very dear to your heart. What got you motivated again to actually to write the book and to put it out there so clear and plain in this video?
So in 2015, the fall of 2015, I got an email from a friend who had been speaking in schools on abstinence. He was an older gentleman, and the organization he went through was looking for more young men. They didn't really have any young men. That's my story. I've been married 15 years to the only girlfriend I ever had. We've been together 18 years. We've got 3 sons. I mean, that's my world.
That's a big amen.
So I recognize it's. I'm not saying I'm special or great,
that's still
but
great.
it's a very special story, and I'm glad I did things the way that I did. My wife has a very different background than I did, and so I knew I'm a pretty good communicator. I think I got a pretty unique story. So I talked to this organization. I said, look, I'd like to go in and speak for you, but I got 2 conditions. You got to let me sing, because that's what I do. And you got to let me talk about pornography. I'm not going to throw a whole generation of boys into abstinence. Kids, by and large today, are having less sex than they were 10 years ago. And everyone's like, oh, maybe sex education is working. No, they're just watching porn and masturbating. Okay, that's what they're doing. And we are sending them into an even darker place than premarital sex. Okay, I'm not like, oh, you're horrible, you had premarital sex. I believe sex was for marriage. I believe I can clinically lay out, apart from any religious text, why that is, and a very clear argument from what love is. Because love is never defined for our generation. People say we need love, all we need is love, just love each other, but no one ever actually defines that. Ever. Like they're just all supposed to know what it is, but we don't. We very clearly have no idea.
And why?
What
why is that?
For me, my opinion is, unless you know the maker of love, the one that made love, you'll have no idea how to use it, what it looks like, what it tastes like, what it smells like, how to give it or how to receive it.
Right.
But assuming, again, because in schools I can't share my faith, well, I can lay out exactly what love is. It's forever. I'm never going to give my sons up for adoption if they bug me too much, right? I'm going to love my wife forever, just as much as I know I'm never going to rob a bank no matter how broke I get, or punch an old lady in the face no matter how angry I get. I know I'm not going to leave my wife because I made a sacred vow, and love is forever. And when divorce happens, this is what it tells a child. It tells a child, if daddy can stop loving mommy, he could stop loving me too. That's what's so devastating to a child. Even as children, we know love is meant to be forever.
Now, do you think that, and let me interrupt you, do you think that you have a special gift to do what you're doing? Because even watching your video, you seem like you have a gift at that, talking about it. Most people aren't built like you.
Sure. Yeah, and here's what I would say. I believe everybody should be doing what they're good at, what they're passionate at, and whatever that is. And it's taken me a while to get here. I mean, I was a web designer for years, standing while I worked and on a computer, and I knew for years that this is good money, but this is not what I was made to do. Being a great husband, a great father, that's what I was made to do. And when I can do that well, I'm free to do a lot of other things.
But that knowledge comes out when you're speaking about it, because I watched your video twice, by the way. It's I think, what, 35 minutes or something like that?
39 minutes.
It's a long video, and you're very compelling. And when I watched that, not even knowing anything about you, it drew me in. I was like, he has something here. You're onto something. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where did that knowledge? I'm sure it came from God, the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So, it's a weird thing to answer that, because I just do. How it comes out, I don't know. I'm just trying to help. I can tell you one thing. Growing up, I wanted what my parents had, to this day. I have incredible parents. We were dirt broke. We lived below the poverty line for my first couple years of existence. But I wanted what my parents had. Having that, watching parents grow up, not in a perfect, but in a loving, functional, wonderful, thriving marriage, showed me, well, that's how it works. And watching my father, I knew what to do, and even sometimes what not to do. But it gave me the confidence to wait for a girl, knowing sex is the most intimate act you can possibly perform on another person, right? It's the only way in the universe to create a human life. That's what I saw in my parents, was it was meant for marriage, not to just be using other women for my own purposes. So to me, it made sense to wait, even though we never had that conversation with my parents about abstinence. And from there, meeting my wife, we dated for 3 years before we got married. No sex of any kind. Got married. It paid off huge dividends, let me tell you.
I'm sure.
And now I've lived it. Not a perfect marriage. I'm growing, but I have lived it. And I've had time to live that and understand what it looks like. But after that, a lot of it's just research. I mean, look, there are so many studies out there, legitimate studies about sex being better in marriage, by and large. About 1 in 2 American adults will get an STD at some point in their life. Well, there's one easy way to never get an STD. So you start looking at the data, and the data backs it up so hard and so fast. In fact, the most common viral STD, which is HPV, is impervious to condoms and has no cure. So most of these kids, none of them have ever heard that. They're just told if you have condoms, you won't get an STD. It's a lie. And when you expose lies to children, the hope is that they'll go, gee, I don't like being lied to, and now that I know, hopefully they'll be haunted by what they've learned. But how it all comes together, I just do. I'm just trying my best to honor whatever skills God has gave me and do something.
And Jeromy, you do well. What are the challenges, compared to years and years ago? How are the challenges different right now for the boys and girls?
In the 1970s, if you wanted to see a porno, you had to be 21, show a valid ID at a movie theater, buy a ticket, and sit there to watch any kind of porn, right? In the 80s, you could maybe get a magazine from a gas station or swipe your parents' credit card or order a VHS tape. The 90s come around, some guy named Tim invents the World Wide Web. Now you could sit at a computer privately and type in lots of things. In 1998, there were 14 million pornographic web pages, okay? Today, there's almost 3 billion web pages. Just one of the popular free tube websites streams 6,000 videos per second. One website.
Yep.
And we have handed smartphones to every child in America, giving them completely free, unfettered, 24/7 access to hardcore pornography, and expecting them to grow up normal. Now we're finding out the average age of exposure to pornography, which today is hardcore, is 8 years old.
Okay.
Okay? So, and some younger. I've met those kids. I met those adults.
Yep.
They're being exposed by friends, and here's the trick. See, I was exposed at 11 in 1992 on my paper route, a VHS tape in the gutter. I was never the same.
Right.
Ever. Everything got weird for me after that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
And it hijacks your brain. And we have 10 plus years of brain studies from doctors and neurologists all over the world that have combined their data, proving emphatically your brain on porn looks just like a person's brain high on crack cocaine. We have handed the most lethal drug ever known to mankind in the pockets of children, and it is breaking them. And so you have boys growing up needing watching violent sex, thinking that's normal, and then having spent years watching it, actually needing and craving that kind in order to even get aroused. You have girls that are bending to that and not enjoying sex. Poll after poll of young girls show girls find sex painful and not ready for them. In fact, the number one thing boys are asking for on college campuses today is anal sex. And if you go to any local hospital around a university, you will find one of the number one things girls come in with, conditions, is rectal damage. It has so twisted our view of what, I mean, you have labiaplasty on the rise. Teenage girls wanting their vaginas reshaped. You now have scrotum surgery on the rise. Boys wanting their scrotums frozen and like smoothed out to look more like porn stars.
Interesting.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The onslaught, and it is every day, all day, as opposed to 150 years ago when boys were working outside every day. Now they have to masturbate like 5 or 6 times just to sleep at night.
So what can parents, what can we as parents and a public, what can we do?
So number one, we've got to wake up. I use this analogy all the time. If there were snakes in the walls of your home and you had children, you would move your family out, hire an exterminator, have them exterminate the snakes, then you would personally inspect to make sure they were all gone before moving your family back in. Okay? You cannot have pornography in your home. There are tools, Open DNS, Net Sanity, who I'm going to be working for, and many others, but those two in particular I think are vital for getting it out of your Wi-Fi and getting it off of devices. If parents, I'm not going to tell you when not to give your kids devices, okay? If they have them, you need to put Net Sanity on them. You can monitor what they're looking at, you can block apps, you can block pornography, and on every level, you can shut their phone off at 9 o'clock at night. It gives you total control over their life. We have middle schoolers sending naked pictures of themselves to strangers and to each other. Child pornography has been normalized in every school. 70% of kids under 18 today have admitted to sending or requesting naked pictures from somebody. Okay? We have normalized this in under 10 years. We have hit a precipice. Rape porn is one of the most popular forms of pornography today. If someone had told me that was going to happen 30 years ago, I'd have punched them in the face. Where do you go after rape porn? Where do you go when an entire generation of children are sending child pornography of themselves to each other and to strangers? We have reached a boiling point. So all we have to do is not watch it. I mean, the government has outlawed pornography in 1973. It's illegal to produce anything above a topless woman. Well, we're not enforcing that, and guess what? We're not enforcing slavery and prostitution either, and now sex trafficking is a billion-dollar industry in America, and the average age a girl is trafficked is 12. Okay? Because boys are growing up watching porn for so many years, eventually they're going to have to buy a young girl to get what they've been watching because their girlfriend won't do it. So we're created horrible, a two-headed beast. And when you break an entire generation's sexuality, what happens? You can't recover from that. Japan's finding that out the hard way. Their young people have stopped having sex altogether. They will lose a third of their population before I'm even dead because the young people have become so sexually dysfunctional. We cannot allow that to happen. So the easiest thing for me is just get it out of your home. My kid...
Now, let me interrupt you. Jeromy, do you give... In your book, first of all, where's your book available?
You can find my book on Amazon, Love and Sex and Porn, Love &Sex &Porn, or you just type in my name.
Okay, you have an audio too. What's that?
The audiobook will be out soon, and that'll be on Audible and iTunes.
And in the book, do you give people advice on how they can actually help with this too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book was meant to describe, really those 3 topics. What is love? How has sex become broken? What was it supposed to be? How has porn enslaved, seduced, and then enslaved our minds? And how can we defy what's being done. And so, we walk through that whole process. I have an updated version of the book coming out that shows a bunch of my resources and apps and things people can use. I'll be continually updating that. Yeah, you can go to thespokesman.live, thespokesman.live, and the book is there and a lot of other resources.
Folks at home, they're looking, they're saying, who is the spokesman?
I'm the spokesman. Okay. I am. I felt like, everywhere I go, I've spoken at over 100 schools, or 100. I've given a lecture over 100 times at many schools, and we're about to go national through my partnership with Net Sanity to other schools. And everyone says, no one's talking about this. I've never heard this from anybody. And finally, it sort of felt like I have become inadvertently the unwitting spokesman on this topic.
You're like the lone wolf.
For this gen, it feels that way. There are other folks joining the fight. Fight the New Drug as a great organization. The National Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation in Washington, D.C. is doing some amazing things. Net Sanity is another company I talked about doing some
How about Covenant
things.
Eyes? Have you heard of that?
I love Covenant Eyes. I have it on my phone. Covenant Eyes is for accountability, and it basically sends your internet history and your app history, if you're on an Android device, to somebody. If you're a guy, and you're struggling with this, that is one of the best ways to eradicate it from your life. If you're on an Apple, I would just recommend get rid of your Apple, get it to Android, because you have to dance through a bunch of hoops to even get Covenant Eyes to work the way it's supposed to on an Apple device. Having said that, it's another great tool. I have it on my phone. So the three of my friends every day, they'll get sent flags if anything comes up. And for a guy working to end the scourge of pornography, they're getting emails all the time at the articles I'm reading and research I'm doing. So I have other guys in the fight, and I built the foundation. But listen, when it has taken over your brain, as it's designed to do, rewiring the neurons of your brain, I mean, it has taken everything for me to remove all access points and all trigger points. I still feel it. To this day, I know precisely where I need to be and what time when the neurons in my brain activate. Every time I walk outside, I have to spit. Okay, it's Pavlov's dog. When I was a kid, I started to spit just like my dad did. Now, every time I step outside, my mouth waters. That's called a trigger. That's what porn does to our brain. And when you try and end usage, you're going to find it very quickly exactly how it's rewired your brain. I've been very fortunate. Again, I was never addicted. It never affected my marriage.
And your dad's a pastor too, right?
Yeah.
Where is he pastor at?
He pastors at a church called The Rock. I actually helped start that church with my dad and a big group of friends in 1999. It's on 55th and Chicago Avenue.
And what does he think of your book, Love, Sex, and Porn?
Oh, he loves it. My dad is the greatest voice of encouragement in my life. He's also the most honest guy you'd ever meet. So I know
that's what you want.
I can trust my dad to just straight up tell me, son, this book's terrible, or you should change this or that. But he's thrilled for me and for what I'm doing. And look, the irony is, I mean, if someone asked me, what are the two worst places in America you could be in? Outside of a strip club, I would say prisons and schools.
Okay.
This is where, oddly enough, where I found myself almost every day. I was just at the women's prison 2 nights ago, the Shakopee Women's Prison. Profound night. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to touch both sides. I'm trying to talk to the kids before they become victims, and then I'm on the other side trying to help the men and women that have become victims themselves.
Good for you.
So it's a strange world, that I inhabit, but I wouldn't change a thing. It's hard work. I have a foundation in place, people that support me. I try not to consume my life with it so that I can come home from work and shut it off, be with my boys, be with my wife, be outside, play, and do sort of normal things. But I did not... The Salvage Project was going to be my thing. I did not want to be the guy going and talking about porn or talking about my experience, but nobody else was doing it. And the first day I went into a school, I saw the looks on these kids' faces and realized, shoot, now I'm going to be this guy.
No, what I think it is I preached a teen challenge like a year and a half ago, and when you get up there and you're honest and you share your background and things like that, it affects people.
It does.
Because most people have been through the same thing, but people are afraid to say it.
Yeah,
They're
shame.
afraid to admit it.
Listen, Ron, this is what is keeping this problem so prevalent. The church. Pornography use in the church is as bad as the rest of the world, and George Barna has those statistics. The devil has rooted himself inside the church in a way he's never done in the history of time, and he's done it by polluting our sex. In the church, there will never be a revival, and the problems in America are as bad as they are because Christians are lazy and they're watching pornography. So another big part of the work I do is going to the churches and challenging them. We need to eject this from our pews.
Right.
We will never, ever see what we need to see in this country until the church wakes up and eradicates it. We can't even help people if we're dealing with it ourselves.
Yeah, see, I think, it's probably hard for me, but I think if I had, this was years ago, somebody was leading a group that we're involved in, right? And so we met for coffee. No, we didn't meet for, we were having Olive Garden. And we're talking, and the Holy Spirit hit me, so I asked him a question. He says, yeah, I've been dealing with this. He's leading our group, okay? Wow. Another guy, he's the head deacon of one of the biggest churches that we have in town here. He's doing all this stuff. And what I like about what you do is you don't give people the names of these places that people go.
Right.
Because all that does is people hear that and
well,
go,
here's
oh,
the
you
thing.
go here.
So occasionally I do.
Sometimes it draws people there.
Occasionally I'll do. Here's what I'll tell you, Ron. No one my age
Right.
has not been to a pornographic website.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And no one my age
Sure.
has not been to many pornographic
Right.
websites. Occasionally, depending on the audience, I will call them by name. You know why?
Why?
Because you need to know the name of your enemy.
Yep.
You need to know their face.
Yep.
And I found...
But I say that
Again.
just like Backpage.
Yeah, that's
I had
exactly
never heard Backpage mentioned till a year ago. Never ever heard of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, when I thought of that, I thought, well, why are you telling people that?
Yeah,
because kids immediately, they type down Backpage.
Well, that's what you think. That's
Yeah.
what you think. At the end of the day, the biggest distributed pornography is Google.
Okay.
You type in any sex
yeah,
term,
that's
type
so
video
bad.
tab,
Yeah.
and they're all right there. In fact, if you go to Yahoo, they will stream the videos from their own page. You don't even have to go to the pornographic
Well,
website.
Google's bad because you can type in stuff that has nothing to do about sex, and you get this.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so you know what I did,
That's
Ron?
really bad.
I blocked Google from my house.
Okay.
You cannot search Google, Yahoo, or Bing in my house. I don't even trust their safe search as far as I
Yep.
can spit. But I have challenged people, listen, if we do not know the name of our enemy,
Right.
how are we going to
Sure.
win? And I'll tell you the biggest name right now, MindGeek.
Never
It's
heard
not
of
a
that
porn
either.
website. It's not a porn website.
Okay.
They own and distribute 85% of the pornography on planet Earth,
Okay.
which is a $100 billion
Okay.
global behemoth. That is more than Apple, Google, Amazon, Netflix, Yahoo, and Microsoft
Right.
bring in combined. And MindGeek distributes 85%. If you Google that, you get a cute little tech website, right? But we're heading towards virtual reality, Ron. We've got sex robots on the way. And all of these things detrimentally affect women in particular, violence against women in particular, because 88% of porn features violence
Right.
against women. I am not afraid to say these people's names. It is not drawing kids to porn. They are already watching it.
Right.
If you have an 11-year-old child
Yeah,
who
yeah,
sits
but
in their
30
room
seconds.
on their device, they're watching pornography. I'm not afraid to call these people by names because by the time I've gotten through with my lecture, you will know that villain.
Right. In the next 30 seconds, what is next for you?
I'm going to be doing tours around the country with Net Sanity. I'm now their official spokesman. I've got some commercials and educational events coming up for them as well. And as always, I'm going to continue my work at the Salvage Project, which you can
Good.
find at thesalvageproject.org.
And where can they watch the video that I watched?
On YouTube for free. Love and Sex and Porn, or just Google my name, and you'll find all my videos. I've got quite a
Sounds
few
good.
videos up there.
You know, in ending motivation, I want to thank the people that actually told me about Jeromy. That's my friends, Heather and Christensen Gustafson.
Yeah,
They're the
good
ones that
friends.
actually led me to Jeromy. It's always good to have somebody that's honest and sincere
Thanks,
on
Ron.
motivation. So thank you for coming
appreciate
today.
it. My
Definitely.
pleasure.
And folks, in all that you do, remember, keep watching Motivation. You can watch it every Saturday morning at 6:30 and 10 o'clock on Channel 6. Until next time, stay fit and stay motivated. We'll see you again.
Take care.